Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And today, Jose Alvarado becomes eligible to return from his PED suspension. How did the Phillies use him? And how does the Phillies fan base react? We'll talk about it on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over 97.5 The Fanatic here in Philadelphia, doing sports talk radio for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for the past 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that you're rating and reviewing if you're listening to us in just in podcast form today. You can get Locked On Phillies wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also get us on YouTube if you want to watch the show as well. And if you're doing that, like and hit that subscribe button. Subscribing will get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It'll keep you updated on all that great Phillies news and the content that we keep up with here on Locked On Phillies. It's super free and easy. So it helps you out. It helps us out. I appreciate everyone who's done that and everyone who's going to do that. Getting ever closer to 5,000 subscribers here on Locked On Phillies. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. Football being around the corner means baseball postseason is also around the corner, and the postseason race is heating up, so it's a great time to be checking in on Locked On Phillies. And the Phillies get a big boost for the postseason push today, but not the postseason. Jose Alvarado is eligible to come off of the PED suspension list today and be activated by the team. So this is the first day he can truly be back on the roster. He's ineligible for the postseason. So we're going to start off today's episode by talking about what this means for the Phils, how they use him, and how the fan base is going to and should react. We're also, of course, going to talk about that monster offensive performance. 21 hits last night against the Mariners. Ranger Suarez looked awesome. It was a great game outside of one guy in the bullpen, but we've talked about Jordan Romano plenty of times. We will again. And we'll also take a look at Phillies-Mariners Game 2 as the ace, the now ace with Zach Wheeler out, goes to the mound in Cristopher Sanchez. By the way, real quick on Zach Wheeler, because this is important. It's not necessarily baseball news, but it's important for him. So he went through a thrombolysis procedure, which is basically they removed the blood clot from his upper extremity. So that's good news. It was successful. There still is no timeline for his return, but for the person, Zach Wheeler, that's really good news. So our thoughts and prayers are still with Wheeler and his family, and hoping everything works out well with that scary situation. Baseball secondary, we will discuss that if and when we get a timeline. But let's talk about Jose Alvarado coming back, because the timeline for his return, well, it's over. It's here. He is eligible to come back off that PED suspension that he was handed back in May, and it's going to be really interesting how the Phillies use him. This is a big asset for the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen, at least for the time being. Now, again, he can't pitch in the postseason. I know it seems like a weird rule. How are you going to let him pitch in the regular season for a team? But then he's suspended for the postseason as well after being suspended earlier this year. I don't know the thought process behind it. I get not letting somebody who was popped for PEDs pitch in the postseason. Like, I'm not saying, oh, they should let Alvarado throw in the postseason. It feels like a weird rule, but that's the reality. So when he's activated today, how are the Phillies going to use him? Well, the number one example, I've heard this a bunch of places, I've used it myself, an analogy. They're going to use him, I think, like a running back on a contract year in the NFL. Now, what does that mean if you're not a big football person? Well, when running backs are on contract years and they're not signed longer term to your team, they have very short shelf lives, high risk of injury, a lot of wear and tear to play that position. So when you have the last year of them and you don't have to worry about the future usage of that running back on your team, you use them as much as possible. Get them the ball 20, 30 times a game, 40 times a game. Like, use them a lot. And I think that's what the Phillies are going to do with Jose Alvarado. Now, I don't know what type of shape he's in. I'm not taking a shot about the PED stuff with the whole weight loss supplement that caused him to pop positive on that drug test. I'm just saying, like, I don't know how stretched out he is to throw like 4 days in a row or anything like that. But, excuse me. Wow. Sneezed on the podcast. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know how ready he is to throw like 3 times in 3 days, but that's how the Phillies should use him. Every opportunity, big fella, you're up. You owe us. And he should be a heavy, heavy part of this bullpen. He should be used to help save innings for other relievers that will be eligible for the postseason. He should be used to cut down on the starters the Phillies have in their rotations, time on the mound. He's a guy that I could see the Phillies using in the 8th inning, 7th, 6th, 5th. I do not care what spot it is. I want him to throw as many innings as his body can handle. I'm not hoping he gets hurt or anything like that. I don't want you to think this is some sadistic plan to injure Jose Alvarado because he let his team down. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he has a month and a half left, less than that, of his baseball season. And you know that with that clock, might as well burn him out, right? Might as well use him as much as you possibly can because he is an expendable asset for this team and a valuable one. Let's not pretend like Jose Alvarado is going to go out there and he's going to be throwing 91 now. He's still going to be throwing 100. He's still going to be chucking and be a dangerous arm out of the bullpen for this team. And he could be a really big piece of this team holding things together in the wake of the Zach Wheeler news. We saw what happened with Jordan Romano last night. The Phillies, while their bullpen has improved since Joan Duran was traded for, they're still not great. All right. They're good. They're okay in certain circumstances. But I need to see Jose Alvarado go out there and kind of be the utility bullpen guy for this team and be what he was when he was available at the start of the year or at the end of last season where he started to figure things out. Now, think about this, right? This is just the world that I want you to imagine if you're a Phillies fan. Let's say you go out tonight and you get 6 innings of work out of Cristopher Sanchez. Could you imagine that 7th inning, you can choose between Orion Kerkering and Matt Strahm based on handedness? Okay, maybe we want the righty in the spot, Kerkering. Lefty in the spot, Matt Strahm. Then in the 8th inning, you get Jose Alvarado throwing 100 from the left side. Then in the 9th inning, you get Joan Duran throwing 100 from the right side. That's a lethal combination of bullpen arms. You will not be able to do that every day, but the fact that the Phillies can do that now with Jose Alvarado back means that they're going to have a much better chance to close down baseball games in the regular season. And the regular season still matters. You know what's really important for the Phillies? And because the Jose Alvarado news popped in, I was going to talk about this on today's episode. We'll talk more about the rotation and the setup of the rotation on tomorrow's show. But because you've got Jose Alvarado back now and you're starting to settle all of this in, what that means for the Phillies is that they can make a better push for one of the top 2 seeds. And if you get that first round bye, well, now you don't have to play in the wild card series, which means you can set up your rotation for the divisional series. If the Phillies find themselves in a 3-game wild card series, they could end up starting a divisional series if they were to win that with not Cristopher Sanchez throwing, not their guys set up. And the Phillies need their rotation to be as pristine as possible if Wheeler's not going to throw again this year. And we don't know if Wheeler's throwing again this year. But that, I've said it, is my assumption that he will not throw a baseball again in the 2025 season. So it's very helpful. Now we get to an interesting part of it. What is going to be and what should be the fans' reaction to Jose Alvarado? Because I've seen everything from loud booing to standing ovation to indifference being said on social media for what the fan base is going to do. I know there will be some people that cheer because they know he can help this team. I know there will be some people that boo because he cost this team dearly by not being available for the postseason. And I know there's some people that will be indifferent, where it's, okay, you're back. You're not helping us in the postseason. You owe us. Get the job done. Here's how I see it. And I talked about it this way over on the radio on 97.5 this morning on Kincaid and South Tunis. This has gone from fandom to a business transaction, right? I am no longer, for the rest of the 2025 season, a quote-unquote fan of Jose Alvarado, where I cheer for him and root for the guy and, hey, go get him. You're our guy. You're one of our relief pitchers. No, that's not the sentiment anymore. I want him to do well only because of the bottom line of the team. Basically, he is just a number in a book right now at this point. I will not feel emotional attachment to Jose Alvarado because he does not have a spot on this team in the postseason, and that's because of his own mistake. But you do know that you need that player to help you get where you need to go, or he can help you where you need to go. And that's it. Take care of business. You owe it to this fan base, this team, the locker room. Think about the clubhouse and everything and how much he needs to make up a lot of stuff with that clubhouse and his teammates. And for the fan base, I don't blame you if you have any reaction, right? I can see people cheering. I can see people booing, though I lean much more on the booing side of the argument. But ultimately, I settle on the indifference option. You're back. Okay, let's go. You got a job to do. And it's no longer I root for Jose Alvarado. I root for the Phillies, and he happens to pitch for him. That's where I'm at. So let me know in the comments what your reaction is going to be when Jose Alvarado takes the mound for the first time. It may not be tonight. He's like activated. I couldn't find the word for a second. He's activated today, but he may not pitch today because we know how bullpens work. But when you see him for that first time out there, when you hear his name announced, what will your reaction be? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Go ahead and let me know there. And listen, we're going to find out maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow night, but we'll know this week. And it'll be a very intriguing study into how the Philadelphia fan base is going to react. Coming up next, Phillies hitters, they reacted very well to facing a very tough pitcher in Logan Gilbert yesterday. An impressive night at the plate for the Phillies from a lot of guys, pretty much the entire lineup. We'll talk about game one against the Mariners coming up in an offensive explosion for the Fightins as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about FanDuel first, though, because August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. So maybe take a flyer on the MVP race. Do you think Josh Allen's going to repeat? Do you think Lamar Jackson's going to get another one? Some really good talent out there. Maybe you want to take a real long shot and go with a running back like Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley. Or if you want to crown your champion in August and pick a Super Bowl winner, why not go with birds versus birds? Do you like the Eagles? Do you like the Ravens? You can look at both of those teams. They're favorites in their conferences, I believe, still at this time. Or you could parlay your division winner dark horses. Whatever you want to do, you better do it on August 26th. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. What a night it was at the bank for the Philadelphia Phillies offense. Like, my goodness, as much as the Phillies have had games this year where they've had offensive explosions, they've never really done it quite like this, where they just got on Seattle so quickly and so effectively. Logan Gilbert got ambushed basically right off the rip in this game. It was a strong performance for the Philadelphia Phillies all around. I mean, they got going in the second inning. Then they had opportunities in the first, but 6 in the second off Logan Gilbert, and everybody hit. They had an opportunity, like I said, in the first where a lot of guys got on base and they just left them out there. But 6 in the second was really the point where this game kind of felt over. And even though we saw Aaron Nola get a 6-run lead in Washington in the final game of that series and then surrender some runs, the Phillies took care of business, and Ranger Suarez was really good. We'll talk about Ranger in a second, but the offense was the main focus of this game. What do we start with first? I guess Bryce Harper would get top billing for the 2 mammoth home runs that he hit in this game. I mean, a multi-home run night is always impressive. But when those 2 home runs travel just a ridiculous ridiculous amount of footage, both over 400 feet. You're like, oh my goodness, that's right. He is Bryce Harper. Gone are the days that we worried about Bryce Harper potentially this wrist injury, this wrist issue, sapping his power. I'd say he's still got a little bit of pop in that bat. It's great to see from him. He had a little bit of a lull there for the past couple weeks, and he has now clearly come out of it. Maybe it's something about being back in Washington that jump-started him because he was solid in that series against the Nationals in a game or two, and he carried it home to the bank. Let's talk about Trey Turner. Turner, 4-hit night for him, and believe it or not, his 13th home run of the year, which was also his 1,500th career hit. Congrats to Trey on that. His first homer at the bank. It's wild that it took that long. Hitters Park, to have 12 home runs coming into this game last night and none of them being at home is just, it's one of those weird anomalies that makes baseball fun and wacky and wild. And that's why Jason Stark of The Athletic writes the wacky and wild baseball column occasionally there. And that's always a great read. But that's just, that's something you don't see often, if ever. And it's nice that he finally got the monkey off of his back there. Not that I thought he was really thinking about it, but a 5 RBI night for Trey, a 3 RBI night for Bryce Harper. JT Realmuto goes yard. He went 3 for 5. Brandon Marsh went 2 for 5. Max Kepler, 2 for 5. Bryson Stott, 2 for 5. Nick Castellanos, 2 for 4. The only player in the starting lineup that did not have, not a hit, a multi-hit night was Alec Boehm, who still went 1 for 5. Now, Edmundo Sosa came into the game. He did not get in the bat. You saw Weston Wilson come into the game. He also did not get in the bat. You saw some defensive replacements there, obviously, for the Phillies. But it was just a situation where the Phillies offense was rolling top to bottom and really start to finish. Even in the innings that they didn't score, they were just doing a wonderful job of ambushing Logan Gilbert. It wasn't like they were putting together these long at-bats. They had a couple of longer ones where they saw a bunch of pitches, but it was more, hey, when we get pitches that we like, we don't miss. Maybe they had a really good scouting report on Logan Gilbert because he's a heavy strikeout guy. But you know what this says to me a little bit? I brought this up yesterday on the podcast. So the Phillies, their approach at the start of this year was, we're going to be more selective. We're going to try and be more hit for average than hit for power. Try and counter what the fan base has complained about in past postseasons and past seasons where they've slumped, where they just hunt the home run and they live and die by the long ball. Well, they countered that, and their power went down. Now, that's understandable, right? If you're saying, hey, we're going to work counts, we're going to focus on contact, you're not going to hit as many home runs. But that was not quite the effect that people wanted it to be, right? You want them to have both power and the ability to put together good at-bats. And sometimes those come at the detriment of the other, right? They cost you if you focus on one or the other too much. And yesterday, I brought up how when you see a strikeout pitcher like Logan Gilbert, who you know if he gets you down in the count, you try and be selective, he can punch you out. He's got multiple out pitches. Maybe that leans to the Phillies turning back into their old selves, which is hunt fastballs or hittable breaking balls, and look at pitches that you really like and say, okay, we're going to get after him, whether it's pitch 1, 2, 3 of the at-bat or deeper into it. I think it played to the Phillies' advantage last night. Well, I don't have to say I think. 21 hits will tell you that it did. Now, it doesn't mean it's a strategy going forward, but it does kind of tell me, hey, this Phillies team, they can do both. That's a good sign from the lineup. They're really going to have to step up with Zach Wheeler, potentially out for the year, but at least we know out for the immediate future, and we'll keep you updated on that. Ranger Suarez deserves some credit as well because he had an awesome start. Like, it could not have come at a better time too. If you had told me that Ranger Suarez would have a 10 strikeout performance after what I've seen over the past couple of weeks, I would have called you flat out insane. And that's what he did last night. 6 2/3, 4 hits, 2 earned, and he did get in trouble a little bit late in his start, but the 10 strikeouts is such a good sign for his ability to still get guys out via the punch out with his velocity where it is. Now, he threw a pitch at 92 last night. That's a good sign. We can live at 92. Now, 93, 94 would be nice, but 92 can work. And I don't know if it was the adrenaline of like, hey, I know Wheels is out. I'm the first guy starting at home. We got to pick it up for our guy, and maybe that brought a little extra juice to the game. But whatever the case may be, he threw 102 pitches. He got through nearly 7 innings worth of work, and he was awesome. So that's a great sign for Ranger. I'm not saying, oh, he's fixed, he's back. What were you guys ever worried about? But it opens my mind to the possibility of, could we have exaggerated Ranger Suarez's second half fall off, and maybe he still has something in the tank? That's going to come with more starts, and he's going to have to continue to prove it. But last night, he looks really darn good. It gives you a bit of a glimmer of hope, maybe the flash of light at the end of a tunnel. We'll see if it continues to play out. Something that I wish I was seeing the end of is not necessarily the tunnel, but Jordan Romano's time with the Philadelphia Phillies. He only got through 1/3 of an inning in relief. He gave up 2 earned. He did give up a home run. He's just, that dude is rough right now. He's terrible. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know how this guy's still on the team. I don't know if maybe with Alvarado coming back today, they will DFA Romano. I doubt it. They'll probably move Nolan Hoffman, who is the guy who threw in the 9th, made his major league debut last night, got into some trouble for the Phillies. He'll probably go back down after 1 day of work. But man, that was the one downside of last night's game is Jordan Romano could just make a game that seems to be a blowout into a tight game just like that in a snap. So I'd prefer not to see him used in any leverage situations whatsoever, but the Phillies keep trotting him out there. It's driving me insane. At least they keep winning ball games, and maybe they'll win again tonight. They should with Cristopher Sanchez on the mound. Coming up next, we're going to talk about just that and how the Phillies continue their strong offensive output. And if Sanchez can show that he's maybe more Wheeler than Wheeler, all right, I'll explain because that sounds almost sacrilegious to the Phillies ace. But we'll talk about what Cristopher Sanchez can show us in his first start since the Wheeler news as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Prize Picks first, though, because, man, Prize Picks is just the absolute best. And football season is almost here. They're the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason's already heating up. College football isn't far behind. So whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in the game. So who are you most excited to watch for football season? Maybe it's the defending Super Bowl champs, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley. Maybe you're looking at the young quarterbacks that are heading into their sophomore season, Caleb Williams in Chicago. Maybe you're looking at Jaden Daniels in Washington, Bo Nix out in Denver. There are some really exciting players out there, and I know you've got predictions for how they're going to do this year. So why not make some money on them? Prize Picks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. It's super easy to do. It takes seconds to put together a Prize Picks lineup, and they also have this cool option, the flex play option. It's a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you still double your money. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game. Game 2, Phillies, Mariners. I'm going to go out on a wild limb here, folks. I don't think there will be as many runs scored for either team in Game 2 of this series as there was in Game 1. 12-7, a total of, 21 runs in the first game of Phillies, Mariners. Sorry if any of you bet the under. That is not what we saw last night. But what will we see tonight at Citizens Bank Park? Hopefully, it will be Cristopher Sanchez reminding us how darn good he's been this year. So Trey Turner talked after the game last night, and he talked about the feeling in the locker room and how dealing with the Wheeler news kind of prompted the team to say, hey, we're not just one guy. We need other guys to step up. We can win as a team if we just continue to stick together and everybody kind of ratchets it up a little bit. But if we're being real, 100%, the locker room line is correct by Trey. Hey, we all got to step up. But there's one dude that's got to step up big time, and that is Cristopher Sanchez. And when I say he's got to step up, I don't mean he has to improve his performance. He's been awesome this year. I mean, just listen to some of these numbers that he's put together. He's 11-4 with a 2.45 ERA, a 1.09 WHIP, and he struck out 157 in 150 and 2/3 innings pitched. He's got the best changeup in baseball, and his fastball changeup combo might be the best 1-2 in baseball. But why he needs to step up is because now the pressure is squarely on him. If you ask 100 random Phillies fans who should start game 1 of a postseason series if Zach Wheeler is unavailable to do so, there's always an oddball. So I'll just say 99 of them are going to tell you Cristopher Sanchez. And that, knowing that, can be pressure for a guy like Sanchez, who has not really been in that spot before. He's been part of a great rotation. He has not been the highlight of a great rotation. And now he's the guy. So how does he do with that pressure on him? We'll see tonight. And you know what would make people feel a lot better is if he goes out and shoves, very similarly to what Ranger Suarez did last night. Now imagine the alternative. Sanchez goes out there tonight and he struggles a little bit. His struggles are going to be amplified at this point because we're looking at him as the guy who could potentially lead this rotation into October. And if he struggles against the Mariners, well, people are going to start saying, see, this is why this team can't win. And I'm not going to say they're wrong. Like, listen, I told you, I don't like the Phillies' chances without Zach Wheeler. I don't think they're going to win the World Series without Zach Wheeler. It became significantly less likely when we got that news. But what you've seen from the offense the past 2 games, what you saw from Ranger last night, what you know you could have in the bullpen if these guys slot in correctly and they stop using Jordan Romano, you can find a way. Stranger things have happened. This is still a very good baseball team, but the immediate replacement to Wheeler is Sanchez. And this is an opportunity for him to say, I've got this. Not literally say it, but say it with the way he throws tonight. Now, will the Phillies offense have the same level of success tonight? Again, they're not going to score 12 runs again tonight. At least I don't think so. I would have told you they weren't going to score 11 again after that finale in Washington. I would have been right. They would have scored 1 more than that, but that's not what I would have meant. They are getting a pretty favorable pitching matchup in this one. So they're facing Bryce Miller, who has a 5.73 ERA for the Mariners in 48 and 2/3 innings pitched this year. He's only got 39 strikeouts, so not a huge strikeout guy. He's got 23 walks. This is a really, really important number because that's just about a walk every other inning, which to me says, hey, you can go up there and go back to that early season approach we were talking about earlier in the podcast. Be selective. Be smart. Do not help a 5+ ERA guy to look like an ace. Now, what does the deep, dark recesses of your Phillies fan mind say? Logan Gilbert. He was one of the preseason picks to win the American League Cy Young Award. He's a great pitcher. His strikeout numbers are unbelievable. And you looked awesome against him. So that means facing Bryce Miller, who is a average to below average major league pitcher, you're probably going to get like 1 hit through 6 innings. I know that's where our brain goes. It's hard for my brain not to go there, but we got to live in reality here. They should still have productive at-bats against Bryce Miller tonight. They should still score 5, 6, 7 runs. They should win this game. One other thing I want to look at as far as the offense and more of the offense from the outfield, it'll be interesting what Rob Thompson does. Now, I think tonight's a pretty easy prediction, but it'll tell us a little something. All of these outfield rotations give us data points to try and figure out what in the world the Phillies are doing. Last night, they had Kepler in left, Marsh in center, Castellanos in right. All 3 of those guys had multi-hit performances against a tough righty in Logan Gilbert. Now you're getting a more hittable righty in Bryce Miller. I would be shocked, floored even, if the outfield is not Kepler in left, Marsh in center, Castellanos in right. Same exact setup as yesterday. Because frankly, you can't change that, in my opinion. You got success from those guys, and as a team, as much as I want to see Harrison Bader be pretty much the everyday center fielder of this team and Brandon Marsh the everyday left fielder of this team, some of these results Rob Thompson's getting, I cannot argue with. So I would go with Kepler left, Marsh in center, Castellanos right. Roll that back out there. And also keep an eye on guys like Trey Turner who seems to be red hot right now, Bryce Harper, who's starting to hit the ball out of the yard, and hey, Kyle Schwarber, he didn't go yard last night, but a couple of hits for him. He could put one out tonight, and that's my home run pick. I think that he goes out. Also, you still got to be careful with Cal Raleigh, the big dumper, who had a quiet night at the dish last night for the Mariners, but he doesn't have very many of those. So some guys to keep an eye on, and I believe the Phillies will win again tonight. Hopefully, we're talking about another win on tomorrow's episode, and we got a lot of great stuff still to get into as the week continues and the postseason draws closer. But that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out and helps you out. And also check out the Locked On Phillies postcast. Same podcast feed, same YouTube channel. Mark Farzetta has your live, immediate reaction to every game as soon as the game finishes. So that's just another reason to subscribe to Locked On Phillies. And I will talk to you on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.